President Trump, as you heard in John's piece, hosted a meeting with one of our strongest allies in the Middle East today. The president met with Saudi Arabia's Deputy Crown Prince at the White House. Joining me now to talk about today's meeting is Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, an advisor to the Deputy Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and a member of the royal family. Your Highness, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I know you weren't in the meeting today, but you've talked about it and heard about it. What can you tell us about the meeting between the Deputy Crown Prince and the President?
Well, Brett, as I understand, it went very well. I think they got along very well personally on a personal level and discussed many important issues, and I think they found agreement on most of those. Prince Mohammed was very keen to come meet President Trump as early as possible to re-emphasize the importance of the relationship between the two countries and to reinvigorate the strategic long-standing partnership that we've had. We've been partners and allies for 50 years. We've worked very well together. Saudi Arabia has been a stable and reliable partner for the United States for that time. And I think Prince Mohammed was keen to make sure that we can move into the 21st century together in a very positive and mutually beneficial way.
As you know, candidate Trump did not shy away from saying what had to be done with Gulf states, especially paying their fair share for protection or going after ISIS, something he reiterated after getting elected. Here he was in December talking about it.
When I look at what's going on in Syria, it's so sad. It's so sad, and we've got to help people. And we have the Gulf states. They have nothing but money. We don't have money. We owe $20 trillion. I will get the Gulf states to give us lots of money, and we'll build and help build safe zones in Syria so people can have a chance.
So what about that? Safe zones in Syria and you all helping to pay the bill?
Yeah, well, Saudi Arabia has always been keen to play its role in the region and in partnership with the U.S., so I think we are more than ready to cooperate with the United States on countering ISIS in Syria, in Iraq, across the region, not just financially, but the Saudi government offered in the Obama administration's time to send its troops into Syria to fight ISIS. That was not met with enthusiasm by the Obama administration. I think that offer remains on the table, and I'm sure the Saudi government is more than ready to support the U.S. in eradicating ISIS. But as I said, not just financially, but actually with its own troops and with its own people.
Interesting. So do you think that plan is getting to fruition, that the Secretary of Defense has kind of worked on, the President talking about it, and is safe zones inside Syria a part of that?
I mean, I don't know if safe zones specifically were discussed today, but I know that Saudi Arabia is very keen that the fight against ISIS doesn't just involve eradicating it today, but making sure that the ground that helps it come to fruition in Syria and in Iraq doesn't exist in the future. So we have to make sure that the people in Syria and the people in Iraq that are liberated from ISIS can live peacefully, can live in harmony, and that I think involves in Syria specifically protecting them from the Syrian regime and from its Iranian allies.
I know Saudi Arabia is in the middle of instituting some reforms, many reforms actually. While that's happening, the U.S. is considering what's going to happen with the UN Rights Council. And just today, Secretary of State Tillerson wrote a letter this is from Foreign Policy. Tillerson, in this letter to the UN, advocates and human rights groups said that while the United States continues to evaluate the effectiveness of the Council, it remains skeptical about the virtues of membership in a human rights organization that includes states with troubled human rights records. And he mentions China, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think we've always had an open dialogue with the United States about the issue of human rights. I think we've always acknowledged that, at least to Western eyes, there are some deficiencies in the Saudi system. We disagree on some of the assessments that the U.S. has on that, but I think we will continue to have that dialogue openly and frankly and work together to make sure that human rights universally, globally, are respected.
What does the reform mean for people inside Saudi Arabia if it goes as you expect? And what does it mean for countries, if that happens, around the region, Muslim communities and other countries in the Gulf states?
I think, the government in Saudi Arabia is very focused on empowering its people to be successful, to be able to have a good life, a good lifestyle. And I think as long as we have a improvement in the level of education, opportunities for the young folks, of course for women as well, and all that, I think that'll really marginalize the voices of extremism. And I think if we can set a very good role model for the region, hopefully others in the region can follow us.
There are some economic magazines who talk about Saudi Arabia and deflation, and that's serious concerns about your economy. Is the economy stable?
I think the economy is very stable. Deflation is less of an issue because of how we're structured. We have had the oil price has gone down, and we are reliant very much on the oil price, and that's one of the things we're focused on. Prince Mohammed, the Deputy Crown Prince, of course, his main issue is the 2030 program, which is focused on moving us away from a dependence on oil, on a much more dynamic economy, much more based on information technology, on skills that allows us to really go into the 21st century without this reliance on the oil price, which will allow our economy to weather in the future all of these challenges very well. And I think we have a very strong economic base, so I'm not worried about the economy.
As the U.S. deals with what the president calls extreme vetting and institutes this travel ban of 6 nations, primarily Muslim nations, that they've said, the administration says, has trouble with their visas over there coming here and is dangerous. You're not on that list, but your thoughts about this and what it means for the U.S.
Well, the Trump administration has described it as a ban not directed against Muslims. I think the Saudi government takes them at their word. I think my understanding is Prince Mohammed did discuss the matter with the president today, and President Trump re-emphasized the fact that it was not directed at Muslims as a religion, but at countries in which the vetting procedure is just not there to allow for safely understanding who is coming to the U.S. and things like that. And look, Saudi Arabia has very stringent standards as to who it allows into its country. So I think we understand completely where the president is coming from in that regard. And as long as he assures us and assures the world that it's not something directed at any one religion, I think it's fair enough for the U.S. to make sure that its security is protected.
Your Highness, we appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.